You water the plant every day. You check the soil. You adjust the sunlight. But nothing grows until one day you stop watching and suddenly it flourishes. That's how desire works too. The more you stare at it, the more it hides. The more you chase, the more it runs. But the moment you trust the process, it blooms. So here's what no one tells you. What you seek won't come by force. It comes when you finally stop needing it. What if calm, not control, was the key? Because sometimes the moment you stop forcing is the moment life starts flowing back to you. But here's the problem. We've been taught the opposite. We grew up believing that more effort means more reward, that success is a direct result of control. Control over outcomes, timing, people, and even ourselves. So we push, we plan, we obsess. We wake up with timelines, metrics, goals, and if reality dares to fall behind schedule, we panic. We interpret stillness as failure. We confuse patience with passivity. And we tell ourselves that surrender is weakness. But deep down, we feel it. This endless striving isn't working. And what's worse, it's making us tired in ways that no amount of sleep can fix. You check everything off your list, but feel strangely empty. You chase validation, but can't feel it when it comes. You hold on so tightly to the outcome that you forget how to breathe along the way. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." In other words, your peace begins the moment you stop thinking that control equals power. Because real power isn't about tightening your grip. It's about knowing what's yours to hold and what must be released. That's why this video isn't about doing more. It's about doing less with deeper presence. Less forcing, more flowing. Less chasing, more becoming. And it starts with 7 inner shifts, subtle but powerful changes in how you relate to yourself, your desires, your time, and your expectations. Each shift is rooted in timeless Stoic wisdom, but made for modern life where burnout, anxiety, and overthinking have become the default setting. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This is practical realignment. And it doesn't ask you to quit or give up. It asks you to pause long enough to return to the version of yourself that life was always trying to work with. So take a breath. Let go just for a moment. And let's begin with the first shift, the one that changes how you relate to results and why detaching from the outcome might just be the most powerful act of inner freedom you've never tried. We've been told that results are everything. Grades, goals, promotions, deadlines, likes, followers, outcomes. So we fixate, we count, we predict, we plan, we refresh the page, we check our phones. And in doing so, we unknowingly sign a contract with anxiety, one that says, "I won't feel peace until this turns out the way I want." But that contract, it's rigged, because outcomes are never fully in your hands. And the more you grip them, the more power you give them to rule your mind. Here's the truth. When your peace depends on a future that hasn't happened yet, you've already lost it. This is where most people live, in that invisible tension between effort and expectation. They try their best, but they're not really present. Every action becomes a question. Is this working yet? When will I know? When will I win? And the moment things don't move fast enough, they spiral. They double down on force, or worse, they quit. Not because they weren't good enough, but because they couldn't wait long enough. So let's flip the script. Instead of asking, when will it happen? Ask, how can I show up fully today without needing it to? That's the shift. Shift 1. Detach from the outcome. Detach doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care so much you're willing to focus on what you can actually control. Your process, your presence, your principles. Because when you act from presence, not pressure, your life begins to breathe again. A woman I once worked with, let's call her a high performer, was obsessed with a promotion. She had the talent, the drive, the results. But she couldn't stop thinking about the title, the raise, the recognition. And the more she fixated, the more anxious she became. Her work was still good, but her energy was off. People noticed. She was there, but not really present. Then came the wake-up moment. A mentor told her, "You're planting seeds and digging them up every day to see if they've sprouted. That's not growth, that's sabotage." Something clicked. She let go. She kept doing the work but stopped micromanaging the result. She stopped asking when and started showing up as if it was already done. And slowly, life caught up to her energy. That's the power of detachment. It's not a spiritual cliché, it's an operational upgrade. The Stoics knew this. Epictetus wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens as it should. Then you will be happy." In other words, your job is not to bend life into your image. It's to align your actions with your values and let life unfold as it must. So how do you practice this shift? First, shift your focus from outcome to effort. Stop asking when will it happen. Start asking, how can I show up fully today? Second, let go of the need to control timing. Life doesn't follow your calendar, neither does growth. And third, stay present. Because this moment, not the imagined future, is where all your power lives. At the end of the day, when you detach from the outcome, you don't become passive, you become powerful. Because you're no longer held hostage by results. You're no longer chasing certainty. You're simply choosing to do the right thing for its own sake. And ironically, that's when the results tend to show up anyway. Quietly, unexpectedly, effortlessly. Not because you chased them, but because you finally stopped needing them to feel whole. You don't live in the world. You live in your interpretation of it. That's the hard truth. The same situation can be a crisis for one person and an opportunity for another. Not because the facts are different, but because the filter is. And that filter is your mind. Most people don't realize they're carrying chaos not around them, but inside them. They think it's the job that's overwhelming, or the partner, or the city. But what's really draining them is how they think about those things. The real burden isn't the event. It's the voice that won't stop narrating it. This is why Shift 2 is so crucial. Master your mindset, or your mindset will master you. You've probably seen it, a person who seems calm in a storm. Not because they're lucky, but because they've trained their mind not to panic at every gust of wind. That calm, that's not their personality, it's their practice. A woman I once coached, let's call her a senior manager, was on the edge of burnout. She was always on, always stressed. She told me, "Even when I'm not working, I'm still working in my head." She couldn't sleep, couldn't focus, couldn't relax. And she thought the problem was the amount of work. But the work wasn't killing her. Her thinking about the work was, every small task became a threat. Every unknown became a disaster in advance. Her mind was rehearsing failure on loop and calling it preparation. So, we made one small change. Awareness. She started watching her thoughts, naming them. Not judging, not fixing, just noticing. And with that space came choice. She stopped reacting, started responding. Within weeks, things shifted. Same job, same deadlines, but a different experience. Not because the world changed, because she did. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, not your income, not your circumstances, not even your relationships. Your thoughts. Because those thoughts become your lens, your mood, your decisions, and eventually your life. So how do you master your mindset? First, become aware of what's running in the background. Not every thought deserves a reaction. Not every fear is real. Start asking, is this thought useful or just loud? Second, reframe the inner dialogue. Turn "this is too much" into "this is a challenge and I've faced worse." Not toxic positivity, but calm reorientation. Third, ground yourself in the present. Because most mental noise isn't about now, it's about what might happen. And that imagined future, it's stealing your actual life. Here's the paradox. Your mind is the source of both your suffering and your freedom. And the difference is not what happens, but how you think about what happens. You can't always choose your reality, but you can always train your response. And when you do, when you make your mind a place of calm, not chaos, you'll begin to attract different outcomes. Not by magic, but because you'll finally be able to see them. Not through fear, but through clarity. So the next time your mind starts spinning, pause, breathe, step back, and remember, the storm isn't always outside. Sometimes, it's just the story you've been telling yourself. And you, not the world, get to change that story. You've planted the seed. You've watered it. You've done everything right. But it's not growing fast enough. So you panic. You overthink. You ask, what am I doing wrong? But maybe it's not about doing more. Maybe it's about learning how to wait well. Because growth, real, deep, lasting growth doesn't come when you say it should. It comes when life says, it's ready. This is where shift 3 begins. Trust in divine timing. We live in a culture of urgency. Fast results. Instant validation. Move fast and break things. But some things, the most meaningful things, don't work on your schedule. They take time. And trying to rush them only delays them further. Think of a seed. If you dig it up every day to check its progress, you don't help it grow, you kill it. The sunlight doesn't panic. The soil doesn't scream, "Why haven't you sprouted yet?" They just hold. They just support. They just trust. But people, we rush. We treat every delay as failure, every silence as rejection, every pause as punishment. I once spoke with someone, a driven entrepreneur who couldn't stop obsessing over milestones. They had spreadsheets, plans, deadlines. But the more they pushed, the more life pushed back. The clients didn't come. The ideas stalled. The money stopped flowing. They were doing everything strategic, but nothing felt aligned. They were building, but from panic. Until one day, they stopped. Not because they gave up, but because they surrendered. They let go of the pressure to be there already and returned to the present, refining their skills, strengthening their foundation, serving those already in front of them. And slowly, silently, things began to click. Opportunities they'd been chasing started showing up uninvited. Why? Because life doesn't reward desperation. It responds to readiness. Epictetus reminded us, no great thing is created suddenly, not because greatness is slow, but because it's alive. And all living things grow in stages. So how do you trust in divine timing? First, let go of your obsession with when. Ask yourself instead, who am I becoming while I wait? Second, focus on your becoming, not your arrival. Growth is happening even when there are no visible signs. Third, accept that not everything delayed is denied. Sometimes life pauses not to punish you, but to prepare you. And above all, remember this. Just because something isn't blooming right now, doesn't mean the roots aren't deepening. You don't need to push harder. You need to align deeper. Because when the moment is right, not by your clock, but by something wiser. Everything will arrive, effortlessly, seamlessly, like a flower that opens, not with force, but with sunlight. So stop checking the calendar, stop refreshing the metrics, and start trusting the soil beneath you, because it's working, even when you can't see it. You're moving, you're doing, you're checking things off, but underneath all that action, there's something tight, rushed, unsteady. You're not acting from vision, you're reacting from fear, and maybe you don't even notice it at first, because the world applauds the hustle. It rewards those who never stop. But what it doesn't show is the quiet desperation behind many of those achievements. Desperation doesn't always scream. Sometimes it looks like a calendar packed to the edge. Sometimes it hides behind productivity, but you can feel it in the panic when things slow down, in the pressure to make anything happen, in that quiet whisper, if I don't move fast, I'll fall behind. This is why Shift 4 matters so much. Act with purpose, not desperation. A man I used to work with, a brilliant strategist, couldn't stop chasing. New clients, new goals, new tactics. He was burning out, not because he was lazy, but because he was directionless. He didn't know what he wanted. He only knew what he didn't want, to fail. And so every step he took wasn't towards something meaningful, it was away from fear. Until one day, someone asked him a simple question: "Who are you doing this for?" He couldn't answer, because he hadn't thought about it. He was too busy running. That pause was the shift. He took a step back, reflected, and for the first time in years, he defined what success meant for him. Not society, not his parents, not the algorithm, just him. And from that moment, everything changed. Same ambition, same work ethic, but no more desperation, no more random motion, just purposeful, clear, centered action. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." You don't act to become someone. You become someone first. Then you act in alignment with that. That's purpose. And that energy, people can feel it. Purposeful action is steady. It doesn't grasp. It doesn't beg. It doesn't push people away with its urgency. It attracts. It clarifies. It calms. So how do you know if you're acting from desperation or purpose? Desperation sounds like this: "Nothing's working. I have to do more. If I stop now, I'll miss my chance. What if they forget me?" Purpose sounds like this: "I know where I'm going. This may take time, and that's okay. I choose to move with clarity, not panic." So how do you practice this shift? First, pause before you act. Ask, is this coming from fear or from intention? Second, get clear on your why. Not every opportunity is aligned. Not every effort is necessary. Third, trust that calm movement is not weakness, it's wisdom. Anyone can hustle. Very few can be still, listen, and move when it matters. At the end of the day, the difference between progress and exhaustion isn't the amount of effort. It's the direction of it. So take a breath, recalibrate, and remember, it's better to walk toward what's true than to run toward what's urgent. Because clarity, not chaos, is what brings lasting results. You double-check, you overthink, you play out every scenario in your head twice. Not because you love planning, but because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid of what might go wrong if you're not one step ahead. So you try to control everything. The timing, the people, the outcomes, even the emotions in the room. You tell yourself it's responsibility. But what you're really doing is carrying the unbearable weight of the uncontrollable. And here's the cost. The tighter you hold, the more life resists you. Because the truth is you're not controlling. You're clenching. And that tension, it leaks into everything. You micromanage relationships. You can't rest without guilt. You replay conversations long after they've ended. You fight battles that haven't even begun, all inside your own mind. That's not peace. That's surveillance. Shift 5 begins here. Let go of control. Not everything, just what was never yours to hold. I once worked with someone, a woman in a high-stakes corporate role. She was brilliant, organized, respected, but every setback, even small ones, would send her spiraling. A delayed email, a missed call, a colleague's offhand comment. She couldn't stop trying to manage every moving piece, every impression, every outcome. She told me, "If I'm not on top of everything, everything falls apart." But over time, her energy drained, her health declined, her relationships frayed. And one day, she broke. Not loudly, just quietly unraveled. That's when she realized it wasn't the world wearing her down, it was her grip on it. So she did something radical. She started asking, is this my responsibility or just my fear pretending to be? That one question changed everything. She learned to let people speak without correcting them, to let projects breathe without controlling the timeline, to let life move without panicking at its pace. And for the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: lightness. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Because real freedom isn't being in charge. It's knowing what not to touch. So how do you begin this shift? First, identify what's truly in your control. Your thoughts, your actions, your attitude. That's it. The rest? Optional burdens. Second, name the illusion. Every time you try to force someone to change, or the outcome to accelerate, or life to match your timeline, pause. Ask, is this influence or control? Third, practice surrender. Not passivity-wise surrender. The kind that says, I'll do my part and leave the rest to unfold. Here's the paradox. When you stop needing control, you gain clarity. When you stop demanding certainty, you start living in reality. And when you let go of everything you can't force, you finally get to feel peace without permission. At the end of the day, letting go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It's strength, refined. Because there's nothing more powerful than a person who knows exactly what is and isn't theirs to carry. You wake up already chasing. More progress, more proof, more status, more enough. And no matter how much you get, it never quite settles you. Because the hunger isn't just for success, it's for security. The feeling that once you have enough, you'll finally be okay. But here's the trap. If you chase life from lack, you'll never feel full no matter how much you catch. That's why Shift 6 is everything. Embody the energy of abundance. This doesn't mean faking wealth or pretending to be content when you're not. It means acting from the truth that you are already resourced enough to move from wholeness, not from hunger. Because here's the paradox. You attract from your energy, not from your effort. A man I once worked with, a talented creative, was always trying to earn his future. He thought that if he hit a certain number, gained a certain reputation, crossed a specific milestone, he'd feel successful. So he kept pushing, but it never landed. Each win brought 5 new goals. Each compliment brought self-doubt. Each day felt like one more loop on a treadmill that never stopped. Until burnout hit. Hard. When we finally talked, he said something raw. I've been running from the feeling that I'm not enough, not toward a goal away from shame. That's when things shifted. He didn't quit. He didn't manifest blindly. He just started acting as if he already had enough to be present. He focused on what was working. He leaned into gratitude. He stopped measuring every moment against some imaginary future. And almost immediately, his creative flow returned. Not because he did more, but because he finally stopped grasping. That's the thing about abundance. It's not a number, it's a mindset. And it's available now. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." In other words, abundance begins when you stop needing more to feel worthy. So, how do you embody this shift? First, practice gratitude. Not performatively but deeply. Take inventory of what already supports you. Your skills, your relationships, your resilience. Abundance starts with noticing. Second, move from fullness, not fear. Before you act, ask, am I doing this because I trust I have enough or because I fear I don't? Third, detach your identity from the outcome. You're not your income, your follower count, your job title. You are the awareness beneath all of it. Here's the quiet truth. Life responds to the energy you carry, and when you live like you're lacking, you create more scarcity. But when you walk like you're enough, the world meets you differently. You speak with more calm. You act with more clarity. You create without clinging, because you're no longer trying to prove you're abundant. You're simply being it. And in that space, the universe doesn't need convincing. It just mirrors what you already are. You've done the work. You've read the books, watched the videos, made the vision board, taken the steps. And still, it's not happening fast enough. So you push harder. You refresh the results. You chase more tactics. You burn more hours. But here's the question. If the path is right, why does it feel so heavy? That tension, that quiet exhaustion beneath all your effort, it's not from doing too much. It's from needing things to happen your way, your timing, your conditions. This is why Shift 7 may be the most liberating of all. Take aligned action and let go. Aligned action is not passive. It's not lazy. It's the deepest kind of effort, the kind that comes from clarity, not craving. Because, here's the truth. You can't force alignment. You can only move from it. I once worked with a woman building a new business. She had the vision, the skills, the drive. But every day was panic. She was trying to make things happen faster, pushing offers, obsessing over numbers, tying her self-worth to every outcome. And the more she pushed, the less traction she felt. Her audience didn't grow, her confidence wavered, her energy scattered, until one day, a mentor told her, "You're planting seeds and shouting at the soil." That landed. She paused. She looked inward. She asked herself, what would it look like to move with trust, not tension? From there, everything changed. She still worked, still showed up, but her energy shifted. Her message became cleaner, her actions more intentional. And slowly, quietly, the right clients, opportunities, and results began to show up. Not because she stopped working, but because she stopped gripping. This is what Seneca meant when he said, "Effort and patience will achieve more than force and anxiety." Because aligned action isn't about speeding up. It's about being in tune with yourself, your values, and the timing of life. So how do you live this shift? First, take the step that feels right, even if it's small. Alignment doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be true. Second, detach from urgency. If it's meant for you, it will come. Maybe not on your timeline, but exactly on time. Third, keep moving, but with soft hands. Let the outcome breathe. Let your effort land. You are not behind. You're becoming. And now, we arrive at the end. But really, this is just the beginning. Because what you've explored in these 7 shifts isn't just strategy, it's return. A return to yourself, to your rhythm, to your power. You've learned to release the grip, to stop forcing the bloom, to let the roots deepen instead of demanding the flower. Remember that plant. You watered it, checked the soil, and nothing happened until you stepped back. And suddenly, it flourished. That plant wasn't broken. It was growing beneath the surface. So were you. And now, maybe it's time to stop shouting at the soil, to stop begging the future, and start living right here, aligned, calm, ready. If this message touched something inside you, take a moment to reflect and share your thoughts below. And if you'd like more insights like this, subscribe to stay with us on the path ahead. Because this work, the quiet, patient, powerful kind, isn't done. It's just beginning.